Hello, everyone. Welcome to the College Fairs of Greater Denver. This is our panel session titled Scholarships, Tips, and Creating a Solid Application. We have a wonderful presenter with us tonight. Just a few housekeeping items. It is a webinar, so your microphone and cameras are turned off. If you have any questions, feel free to put those in the Q&A box. And this presentation is being recorded and will be posted at strivescan.com/Greater Denver. I will now turn it over to our presenter and looking forward to hearing great things about scholarships.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mariah Al-Subi. I am the Selection and Programs Coordinator at the Betcher Foundation. And at Betcher, we believe in the promise of Colorado and the potential of Coloradans. And every day we champion excellence across our state by investing in our most talented citizens and high potential organizations, because supporting their hard work and leadership will enable them to give back for years to come. And we're here now to support you and your hard work throughout throughout high school, so that you can be competitive for scholarships and well prepared for college. And as part of our service to Colorado students, we have created this presentation to make sure you have all the information you need to prepare a strong scholarship application, whether it's for the Betcher Foundation Scholarship or any other scholarship. In this presentation today, I'll attempt to tell you everything you need to know about the scholarship search process in about 35 minutes, and I'll leave around 10 minutes for Q&A at the end. So I won't be able to look at those questions until the very end of the presentation. And if there are any other lingering questions that we don't get to in those 10 minutes, I'll leave my contact information up. So let's start with something to ponder. What's the first question you ask yourself when you're preparing to make a large purchase? Usually for most people, the question is, well, how much does it cost? So we've outlined some average estimates of the annual cost of attending either a public or private college or university. And the cost of attending college will vary based upon whether you attend a public or private university, since private tuition is considerably more expensive, and on whether you attend school in-state or out-of-state, since out-of-state is again much more expensive. And this is because of variance in federal and state funding. There also might be additional expenses not counted on this chart, such as health insurance costs. But however, regardless of what type of school you attend, there are 4 basic costs of attending any college or university. They are tuition and fees, books and supplies, and then living expenses, which are your room and board and other expenses like your personal expenses or your transportation, etc. So as you can see here, the going rate for attending a private school in Colorado is almost $35,000 a year. And it's almost $80,000 to attend a private school per year. So if you multiply these numbers by 4, assuming that you'll finish college in 4 years, not 3 or 5, then you'll have an estimate of your total cost of attending college. And for example, some public schools in the state of Colorado include CU Boulder, the University of Colorado Denver, Colorado State University, and the School of Mines. And some private schools include the University of Denver, Colorado College, and Regis. And for more specific numbers, I suggest you visit their websites, but these are some estimates to keep in mind while you're choosing which university to attend. So, how are you going to find a way to pay all that tuition? There are 4 major types of financial aid, and as you can see here at first glance, they're ranked in order of most preferable to least preferable. First, we have 2 categories, which are gift aid and self-help aid. Gift aid means you don't have to pay it back, and that's what makes it more desirable. And scholarships and grants are considered gift aid, meaning that it's money given to you for the purpose of your education that you never have to worry about giving back. These are organizations and schools investing in you and believing in your potential. You also have the option of self-help aid to make up some differences, and that consists of loans and work study. And similar to any other loan you will ever receive, you have to pay back those loans either during or after the time you earn your degree. Millions of dollars go unclaimed each year in gift aid, and those are scholarship sources. So make sure when you conduct your scholarship search, you exhaust all the possibilities. Some great places to find scholarships include your high school counseling office or guidance office, colleges and universities, programs and departments, community organizations, your civic organizations, your college access, cultural, religious. Does your church have any scholarships that they're giving out? Do you have, are your parents veterans? Do you have access to veteran scholarships? There's scholarships for being left-handed. There's scholarships for so many communities that you can be a part of that you might not even consider. There are also businesses and labor unions that give away some scholarships. I think Starbucks gives away some scholarships for employees that they work with. Burger King might do the same. And then there's also private foundations like the Betcher Foundation. When you're looking for scholarships, the best place to start is what we have at the very top, your counseling office and college admissions offices, because they hire people who specifically dedicate their time to scholarships and to helping you find the scholarships that you are eligible for. But in case you want to get a head start and you want to look for scholarships on your own, here's some resources that you can go on and search for scholarships through. And so I really highly suggest taking a picture of this slide. It includes some websites like myjourneycolorado.com or chegg.com that allows you to search for scholarships. And then I also wanted to highlight some books. There's the Colorado Collegiate Book. That is a resource that's helpful for finding scholarships and learning how to fill out your applications. There's Scholarships 1-on-1, the Real World Guide to Getting Cash for College. That is also another helpful resource. And then a book that you shouldn't have to buy is All the Wisdom and None of the Junk, Secrets of Applying for College Admission and Scholarships. This is a book that the Betcher Foundation has written. Our CEO, who was a former Betcher Scholar as well, wrote this book, and we gave a free copy to every single high school in the state of Colorado. So your school should have a copy of this book, and if they don't happen to find it, or if they've lost it since 2017, because that's been a long time, they can email us and we'll mail them a free copy for all students to share at the school. It's a really helpful book that highlights scholarships and also has example short answer questions, short answer essays, and long answer essays that are annotated on what parts are relevant for your applications and what parts might actually be hurting you. So next we have something to ponder. How do you earn scholarships? Scholarships are perhaps the best method of financing a college education, but of course, there's a catch. You have to earn them. And that's what I'm going to spend most of our time talking to you about. Earning scholarships involves carefully planning your high school career, taking the time to look and apply for scholarships, and doing things throughout high school years that increase your competitiveness for a merit-based scholarship. At Betcher, we've created an acronym to help students remember the 3 things for earning merit-based scholarships. It's academics, community service, and extracurricular activities, ACE. Students who are well-rounded in these 3 areas are competitive candidates for merit-based scholarships. There are also things you can do for each year of your high school and even before to make you the most competitive candidate. And in turn, really strong contributors to your school and community. You should do these things to become a more involved member in your community, and in return, you'll earn some scholarships. So let's take a closer look at these three areas. First, academics. You need to have a strong academic record. An example of this is an A in calculus standing out more than an A in algebra. And it's also important to think about how to demonstrate intellectual curiosity on paper and seek out opportunities that show your academic growth outside of the classroom, like field classes or summer experiences. These could be your college prep. These could be included in your college prep curriculum. That's your AB, your IB, etc. You need to have your 4 years of core subjects that you need to graduate from a Colorado high school anyway. And then you also might want to take the SAT and ACT, and if you do that, you'll want to practice, you'll want to plan ahead, and you'll want to take it twice or take both if possible. We generally find that students will perform better the second time they take a standardized test. At the Betcher Foundation, we've decided to move to test optional scholarship applications. We still encourage applicants to submit test scores if possible, as that's one more piece of data we can consider in our application review process. But that noted, we want to emphasize that your test score would be just one of many factors we would consider in a holistic application review. And please note that every school and scholarship program is handling their eligibility requirements differently and their merit-based outlooks differently. So we can't say for sure that all colleges or scholarship applications will be test optional. Therefore, you will need to pay close attention to every application to see their requirements. Because of that, it's a really, really good idea to take those tests if you can safely do so, because then you'll keep your options open for applying to any and all scholarships and colleges and programs. And before we move on to the second area, just think for a second about any sorts of community service that you've participated in, anything that you've ever done for your community. Have you ever volunteered at a soup kitchen or a food bank, or planting trees or mentoring younger students? All of these things are great examples of community service. Now, the tricky part is, how do we assess community service when looking at applications? Well, when we talk about community service, we're looking for three things: depth of commitment, length of participation, and leadership and initiative. We're looking at quality versus quantity. Are you an initiator or a participant? We're also looking for depth versus breadth. And essentially, it's impact. For example, volunteering at a soup kitchen as a weekly commitment for 4 years is more impressive than just once. And the same thing applies to our third area of extracurricular activities. Again, we're looking for depth of participation, length of commitment, and leadership and initiative. These are when we're looking at arts, athletics, clubs, organizations, work, hobbies. It's a huge umbrella that encompasses a lot. So really, you can't forget your work experiences. That counts as an extracurricular activity. So overall, with community service and extracurricular involvement, it's important to remember that it's more about depth than breadth. It's that quality that we're looking for, which means it's more about how involved you are in each activity or organization than how many activities and organizations you have loosely participated in over your high school years. In addition to what you see above, you might want to ask yourself, have you ever started a club or organization at your school? Could you? Have you ever founded your own nonprofit or started your own business, including common high school businesses such as babysitting, lawn care, etc.? Have you ever been recognized on a broad public scale for a unique talent, such as earning accolades at the International Science Fair, or ranking in the global yo-yo competition, or being inducted into the National Federation of Professional Magicians? Those are all incredible things that you should highlight when you're looking into your extracurricular activities for scholarship applications. So, as you go through high school, there are steps you can take to ensure you'll be prepared to apply for scholarships and for college. As a freshman, you should focus on planning for the future and exploring different opportunities and interests. As a sophomore, you should focus on broadening and deepening the experiences that meant the most to you or that you're most passionate about. As a junior, you should take the SAT and/or the ACT. And in addition, look for leadership positions in the activities that have meant the most to you. Start to make an impact on those organizations. And as a senior, you should be applying for scholarships in colleges and visiting colleges that you're interested in. You should also focus on demonstrating maturity of leadership and sustainability of your impact on groups and organizations that you're a part of. So now we have something else to ponder. What are your passions, and how can these be reflected in your application? For the next we're not using a chat feature in this, so we're totally okay. But just think about it. If you have a piece of paper, maybe think about what things you're most passionate about. These are the things you can use to stand out. It can be a challenge, especially when you only have a couple sheets of paper or a couple screens on an online form to do it. So how do you make your application stand out? Well, let me answer a question with another question. What do you see in this image? Some people might see a rabbit, others might see a duck. And how about in this one? You might see an old man's profile, or a woman and a man. Just like you had to change your perspective to see some of those images in the pictures I just showed you, students need to pretend that they're on the receiving end of a scholarship application, remembering that the only thing the review committees see are a few pieces of paper that are supposed to represent a living person. So when you're completing your application, put yourself in the shoes of the person reading the application and pretend that you don't know anything about your own activities. However, in the reality, you know everything about your own activities, but the person reading your application doesn't have that same perspective. So think about what information you need to include to make sure that a complete stranger will read your application with the perspective that you hope they will. So you must remember to do a good job of bringing yourself to life on paper, communicating in a detailed and descriptive manner so that review committees can see the whole picture of how you specifically meet the selection criteria for their scholarship. Think about what information would be most valuable to you if you were the one receiving the applications for review. That brings us to the point where you actually have to take all your activities and put them on paper or type them into an online application. So I have a few tips on how to do that in the most effective way. These are some things to keep in mind when demonstrating yourself on paper. Committees are selecting students that are compelling candidates. Being a compelling candidate can be expressed by having unique talents or original character traits. It can also be shown through remarkable stories or through depth in activities. You can also show your personal growth and your worldview. Committees are looking for quality, not just quantity, and they're looking for initiation, not just participation. I keep repeating these things because of how important they are. First, let's talk about the content of your application. This is the meat, the guts, the core of your application, the protein on your meal. Focus on the selection criteria for each individual scholarship. This is your ticket to success. Make sure you know what you're applying for. Make sure you know why this scholarship exists. Why is someone wanting to give you this money for college? Why should they invest in you? How do you align with their mission? Remember our acronym. Remember to ace those applications, show your academics, your community service, and your extracurriculars. And then again, be specific and be detailed. I know that's such a difficult thing to ask for when you have a limited word count, but that's what the iterative process is for. Iteration, meaning repeating how often you write those descriptors for your application. And so don't just turn in your first draft. Keep writing it, keep getting feedback from those around you, and really hone in on that craft and that art of writing your scholarship applications. So here are some examples. How about you are writing a service description for the time you spent as a food bank volunteer? Instead of writing food bank volunteer, maybe you could write that you volunteered 20 hours per week during your junior year to collect canned food and coordinated a food basket distribution with a local food bank. That says so much more. Note that detail and specificity. Use strong action verbs. Volunteered, you coordinated, you organized. These words are much better than helped, gave, worked. In addition, quantifying hours per week gives an idea of the length and depth of participation. Here's another example. Instead of just saying that you're a member of the student council as a club description, you could say that you served as vice president of the student council and represented your school at a statewide conference and served as chair of the prom committee. There, you're showing your details. You have strong verbs. You served, you represented. It really allows that person who's reading your application to understand what you spent your time doing. Here's another one for an athletics description. Sure, you were in the soccer team, but what was your role in it? You're a starting forward and 2-year varsity letterman for the soccer team. That is so much more detailed and specific, showing the depth and breadth of your involvement. And what about those essays? Essays give you the opportunity to demonstrate at least the why or how behind the what from the activities. Essays give selection committees insight into a student's demonstrated academic ability, your clear, focused writing that holds readers' attention. So you want to be concise, again, iterative. You should answer the questions directly. You should really consider the content and organization. And you should use strong writing skills and sentence fluency that you've learned over the last 4 years of high school. And again, proofread. You have to use that iterative process to make sure that you're not just submitting that first draft, to show that you've invested some time and effort in that application, so that it's worth the time of the reader that's choosing to select you. You're compelling them to select you. One really, really good tool that I love using for that proofreading method as well is Grammarly. It's a free software tool that you can download to check your writing, and plops right into any writing platform that you use. And it's not sponsored. I just love it. Essays also reveal your character, personality, and motivations. They tell us something new and provide insight into who you are, what your interests are, what your values are, your service ethic, your leadership skills and involvement. And then they also show us your word choice and imagery. They show us your writing skills, which are really important because they allow us to hear your voice. So it's your voice. It's not Merriam-Webster's or anyone else's, even the people that you're choosing to help read and work with you. It's still you, and the core of it is who you are. So other things to consider are: remember the selection criteria, again, and then engage the reader and leave an impression. So you shouldn't try and be funny if you're not funny, or be philosophical if you're not philosophical. Just by being authentic and showing who you are, genuine writing shows through and is much more impressive than anything else you could put forward. And a couple really, really important things to remember is: don't just repeat your resume or list a bunch of adjectives. Pick a topic based on what you think the committee wants to hear or what you're passionate about. We have a current Betcher Scholar whose essay was about hot Cheetos, and they were selected for the Betcher Scholarship. So you can really just choose what matters to you. And as long as you are able to speak to why that matters to you so much, then it can show who you are and your voice will come through. And again, that's what's most important. And to make sure you have time to do that, you should not wait until the last minute to write those essays. Personally, for when I was applying for my scholarships, I started about 2 months before submission for most of them, and a lot of things can be utilized across multiple scholarship applications, but you should really start working on those way, way, way ahead of time before that submission deadline. So more about essays. You can just get started. I know summer's over, but you can start writing now, and you can just free write. There's a really, really incredible book called Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott, where she says that anyone who's ever lived has enough to write a book. And so just write about your experiences in your life and what matters to you, and you'll eventually be able to hone in on what it's like to write about yourself. So write continuously, free of expectations or self-criticism. Don't ever go back. Don't ever use the delete button. This is when you're starting. You can use those later. And then come back to your draft after a few days with fresh eyes and read aloud for tone, fluency, and message. And remember your audience. And that's where you can go in and adjust that first draft. So be personal and descriptive. And guard against overuse of "I did this" or that, and exclamation points or caps. The content of your application may include an essay or responses to short answer questions. And, while sometimes it's really tough to get started, these tips will help you get through it. And if you need recommendations for any of your scholarship applications, select recommenders who know you well. Give your recommenders a resume maybe, or have coffee with them and talk about what you'd like to show on those applications. Let them know what the requirements of the scholarship are so they know the selection criteria just as well as you do. And give your recommenders direction on what their role is. Are they your recommender for the leadership activities, for the community service? Let them know what you want them to speak to. And then allow them enough time before the deadline to be able to write a really great letter of recommendation for you. And never forget to follow up and thank people for taking the time to write on your behalf, because that shows an investment in you yet again. And remember, scholarship committees are looking for people who can represent them well. A more professional application will present you as a better candidate. So be sure to edit and proofread your work. Reviewers are assuming that the essay you submit is an example of your best writing, so you should make sure it is. And pay attention to all instructions, deadlines, word count, selection criteria, eligibility, etc. And in addition, make copies of everything. Not only will it be used as a good backup, but it can act as a good reference for all your other applications. But be careful. You don't want any of your essays to appear cookie cutter. While you can have some template of ideas that you want to submit to multiple scholarships, make sure to personalize each one you write. And what if you have to do an interview? Some scholarships, like the Becher Scholarship, require an interview. Here's a few tips on that. First and foremost, again, be genuine. Be yourself. That's your best selling point. And before going in, remember the selection criteria. It's important that you remember what the scholarship is awarded for. And review your application. They'll ask you specific questions about things on there. I know for the Becher Scholarship, most of our questions are actually based exclusively on your application. And so some other scholarships may have some more generic questions like your strengths and weaknesses, but most of them will have already invested some time and effort into reading your application, the one that you spent so much time on and perfected. And so they'll ask you questions based on that to show that they've already got a vested interest in you. And be prepared to share. But don't think you need to have your whole life planned out either. Practice some good communication skills before your interview. Your strong handshake, your eye contact, that could be an uncomfortable thing to do, but mock interviews can help. And then do your homework. Research the mission, history, operations of the organization granting the scholarship, and be prepared to discuss or ask some thoughtful questions. Again, having a mock interview, maybe with your counseling office, is a resource to set one up, or maybe your friends could help with some, but you want to do a mock interview with an authority figure that's not a friend or a family member at least once, and think about the answers that the scholarship board will ask you. But be careful not to script responses or memorize or over practice. In your interviews, you'll want to be natural and genuine. You want to show who you are. Dress appropriately. Better to be overdressed than to underdress. And at the end of every interview, you'll most likely be asked if you have any questions for them. Don't be surprised and prepare. What questions do you have for those selectors for the scholarship? What would you want to know that hasn't been answered by the website or the application process? That was the general information I wanted to share about colleges and scholarship applications, and hopefully it gives you a better idea of where to find them, how to present yourself on paper or online, and some tips and hints on how to make yourself a compelling candidate. Now I want to spend just a few moments talking about the Becher Scholarship. And at Becher, we know that we need Colorado's best minds to stay in Colorado. Many of Colorado's top high school students leave the state to pursue their studies, rather than attend a Colorado school, build a Colorado network, and use their immense talents to improve their communities right here at home. So because of that, the Betcher Scholarship was founded. And one way we invest in high potential students is through this scholarship. It exists to champion Colorado's best and brightest right here at home, while giving them the opportunity to connect with equally driven individuals and providing them with resources for life. It's Colorado's oldest and one of the most prestigious merit-based scholarships in the state. It started in 1952, and the donor intent, again, was to retain Colorado's young leaders as in-state students for their education. We award 50 scholarships annually, and it's a 4-year comprehensive undergraduate scholarship. So it can be used at any accredited 4-year college or university in the state of Colorado, public or private. And we have 2 funding models that either cover the full cost of attendance or the full tuition and fees, depending on which university you choose to attend. And in addition, we have an international education grant for students who would like to study abroad, and 4 types of enrichment grants up to $3,000 total. So it's really more than just a check. It's a network of successful scholars, alumni, and community members. It's scholar community activities on campus and amongst institutions. We have scholars that go bowling together. We have scholars that go skiing together. And those are opportunities that are offered by the universities and paid for by the foundation, because we'd love to invest in you more than just that check. We'd love for you to have amazing experiences and learn from one another. We also provide grant writing training and experience, support finding internships or research opportunities, and career roundtables with industry experts and entrepreneurs. So you might be thinking, am I eligible for the Betcher Scholarship? To apply for the Betcher Scholarship, you must be a graduating Colorado high school senior who's lived in Colorado for their full junior and senior years of high school. There are some exceptions to this for students that have studied abroad, and for those, you can email us at scholarships@betcherfoundation.org. That email will pop up at the end. You also must be a citizen, legal permanent resident, or lawfully present, including through DACA in the United States, or meet the requirements and have applied for or started the process of applying for citizenship, legal status, or lawful presence. If you have any questions on those criteria, please email us as well. And in case we have any students here who are wondering whether they should apply for the Betcher Scholarship before or after their gap year, we do not accept applications after the student's gap year, but we'll accept the application if you submit it beforehand, and then we'll allow you to take a gap year. So just make sure you apply before you graduate if you're considering taking a gap year. And then additionally, if you're graduating early or doing the ASCENT program and staying for a 5th year, apply whenever is your final year of high school. And so if you are a junior, but you're graduating as a junior, don't apply the year after your diploma. So just apply the year that you graduate. And at Betcher, we like to focus on holistic selection criteria. A strong candidate demonstrates superior scholastic ability and intellectual curiosity, leadership and involvement, service to school and community, and outstanding character. As a merit-based scholarship, we define merit as merit of circumstance, meaning the selection criteria above and more. We care deeply about lived experiences in the context in which a student has thrived as a leader, either because of or in spite of personal circumstances. And competitive candidates also demonstrate a strong potential for continued leadership and service. We don't compare every single applicant to one another. We like to have a more holistic approach and judge students based on how they've created impact in their community, based on the circumstances that they've come up in. I really want to highlight this point of our slide deck. We're almost at the end. We have a resource guide that we've created that includes the slides in this slide deck, as well as some more information about how to apply for scholarships, financial aid, and provide a compelling college and scholarship application. It's the carrot that we dangle for finishing our survey. And so our survey is surveymonkey.com/r/2023 ACE survey. Please take a picture of this slide if you're interested in completing that survey and getting access to the resource guide, because as soon as you submit it, you get a little link to download that packet. And then we also have so much helpful information on our website. So feel free to explore the scholarship FAQs and resources page, where you can view an abbreviated version of this presentation as well. So that's the end of our presentation. I'm getting to the Q&A at this point, but if you have any additional questions that are not answered by the end of the Q&A, feel free to email me at scholarships@betrafoundation.org, and I'll get back to you, I promise. So I'll stop my share and I can answer any Q&A questions that come up.
At this time, we have a few more minutes left in our session. So if you do have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box right now.
And I'll put the link to this survey for anyone that would like to gain access to the resource guide. I'll put that link in the chat in 1 second. So there's one question that says, are you related to the other 2 webinars? Sarah, do you know?
So all of the webinars today were hosted in collaboration with the College Fairs of Greater Denver. And so they sought out our presenters. So not so much related in terms of the organizations, because all of the organizations were different. We had one from Dickinson College, one from Colorado State, and now this one. So they're all just put on by the College Fair of Greater Denver.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sarah. I see Anne has a question. Do most scholarships need to know what college you've been admitted to, or do you apply before you know? That's a great question. Thank you, Anne. It really depends on the scholarship. With the Betcher Scholarship, we do not require students to let us know which college they've decided to attend. We do require that they eventually choose to attend a Colorado university, but that will happen after the selection. If you don't choose to attend a Colorado university, you're not eligible to be a Betcher Scholar. But it really depends. If it's a university specific or college specific scholarship, that'll be part of your admissions package at that university and something you can talk to the university's scholarship department about. Karen had a question. What's the GPA requirement to apply for the Betcher Scholarship? We do not have a GPA requirement. And I see another question about the lowest GPA that's considered for merit-based scholarships. At the Betcher Foundation, we don't usually try to share those averages, or at some scholarships will have a minimum GPA, and they'll let you know in their eligibility requirements, and so you'll know if you're eligible to apply for those scholarships. We don't have that. We have such a wide range. I'll bring in SAT scores as an example. We have students that are Betcher recipients that get an 1100 on the SAT, and we have students that are Betcher recipients that get a 1600 on the SAT. So that's a very wide range. And it really depends on whether you're taking AP classes or honors classes, if they're offered to you compared to taking regular classes, and that'll affect your GPA. So it's a little more nuanced, and so I can't answer the questions about the GPA requirements specifically. And any scholarships that require those, will have those listed front and center. I see a student saying, are legal residents Colorado high school students on H4 eligible for scholarships? You would be eligible for the Betcher Scholarship as long as you are legally here, legally documented, and then are able to maintain that status in your college. So you can apply for the Betcher Scholarship, and then any other scholarships will list their residency requirements in the eligibility form. And so you can apply for the Betcher Scholarship. I'm on an F1 visa, and I applied for the Betcher Scholarship. When's the best time to start applying for scholarships? Right now. It's a really, really good time to start applying for scholarships around this time of year. The summer before your senior year, start preparing for scholarship applications. So it's best your final year of high school. The beginning of your final year of high school is a really great time to apply for scholarships. That's when most scholarships are open, and that's when you'll get most of that funding. And so there are millions and millions and millions of dollars that go unclaimed each year. It is unbelievable, because so many students don't look at scholarships that are only, $100 or $200, and so they don't even apply. But those add up. Those add up a lot. And one helpful resource is Scholar Snap, and I'll put that here in the chat. And it makes applying for so many scholarships a little bit easier. It fills in all your demographic information immediately across all scholarships. The Better Scholarship is part of Scholar Snap. And so when you're applying for a bunch of small scholarships that people don't take initiative to do, and that's where you see most of the unclaimed money, it can be difficult and tedious. And this fills out the smaller chunks of the application: your name, your address, your family information, maybe if it's a need aware or need considered scholarship, then that financial information could be shared as well. So it makes it easier to apply for those scholarships.
Just as a reminder, you can only use the Q&A box if you do have any questions. So you are unable, due to the webinar format, to unmute yourself. So if you do have any questions, we have about a couple more minutes left. Go ahead and pop those into the Q&A chat before we wrap up.
Happy to answer any questions related to applying for merit-based scholarships or applying for the Better scholarships specifically. And I'll share the most helpful part of our website, which is our Q&A section. I'll put that as another link. Hold on, spamming you with links at this point, but just in case anyone was interested in that as well. So Scholar Snap, we just got a question on how Scholar Snap works. Scholar Snap, you put in your information, or you can apply for a scholarship using Scholar Snap. Like, you can start your Better scholarship application through Scholar Snap, and it has an algorithm, or it's able to save your information: your name, your birthday, which school you go to, those small things that end up taking time over many scholarship applications. It saves those, and then when you start a new scholarship application, it puts those into that new scholarship application if that scholarship works with Scholar Snap, which they do for a lot of scholarships. And so it saves you some time, so you don't have to fill all that out. All you have to fill out is the essays and the short answer questions. So it's a really helpful resource that we like to share with students.
All right, and given we don't have any more active questions in the chat, I want to take this time to thank you all for joining in and thank our wonderful presenter on their information tonight. Again, this recording will be posted at strivescan.com/Greater Denver. So if you would like to revisit it, please do so in the next couple of days. It will be posted again at strivescan.com/Greater Denver. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you.